Hey guys, it's Malthor here once again, and as of this video, my Assassin solo self-found hardcore Ice Nova character is level 91 and yet still alive by some miracle. Up until this point, there hasn't really been anything too death-defying, not too many close calls. There was just the one I posted on Twitter, which was a tier 6 map, Abyssal Flicker monster hitting me for 7k. 7k in a tier 6 map with a simple bit of 1 or 2 damage mods on the map. So that was pretty ridiculous, but besides that, I haven't really had any close calls, and basically I want to clue you into the fact that it's not really a build so much that's hardcore viable or a skill or whatever. It's more just how you actually tackle the game itself. So you may look at me in all of my builds and go, lol, Mathel playing hardcore, that's ridiculous. He won't last a single second. But that's because you are quite often, or people are quite often, looking at my softcore playstyle as my hardcore playstyle. That's not really the case. That's not really how I approach hardcore, or how I would approach hardcore with builds if I was going to play it. Simply put, you would just adjust for the situation you are in. When I'm playing softcore, I really don't care if I have 1 or 2 deaths on the way to level 90. I don't really care if I die once or twice during leveling. I don't really care if I die once or twice during the endgame bosses. So that's why I play the way I play. That's why I build the way I build. I make characters and have a playstyle that's not going to get you overwhelmingly killed over and over again, but something that is competitive damage-wise, has a lot of fun, and then will, sometimes suffer the consequences of poor play. So something like this character here has been adjusted for a hardcore playstyle by just simply having a little bit more life, a little bit more mana, maybe 1 or 2 flasks, and then of course you can see that it is a lot more tankier than usual, especially for the content that I'm doing. Now in the background here you can see I am Val Ice Novering the shit out of some of these zones, and it is one of the most satisfying and funnest skills you can press, as I've mentioned before in previous Ice Nova videos. Boom, that's a big Val Ice Nova, and it seems to be a pretty good skill for hardcore if you play well enough. Can be a little rough because you do have to throw out all kinds of skills. You got to set up your frost bolts into your Ice Novas, you have to move around with your Flame Dash plenty, and you got to throw out your Storm Brands to get your curse up, at least until you have the right gear. And after about 5 or 6 hours of playing, I do get a little tired and a little sloppier with my gameplay, so I don't feel too confident in continuing on a hardcore grind as such, though I quite possibly could. I just don't think it's worth doing. So it is a bit more, to do than a, let's say, a Winter Orb build, being as I am the only current assassin on the entire ladder not playing Winter Orb. It is a little bit more challenging, but I think it's a lot more rewarding. And really all I want to show you is just a few more clips on my way to level 91. Plenty of solid flashback action. Every single map just seems like it's chock full of challenging stuff that's going to be threatening to you and rewarding in some case, and it does seem pretty worth playing, and Val Ice Nova carries me in so many of these places, and I don't think I would have had quite as much satisfaction playing Winter Orb throughout this entire event as I do playing Ice Nova. So currently level 91 Assassin, and I have managed to survive at this point doing, some of the lower and easier content, just taking it up at my own pace and slowly chipping away through the Atlas, because I haven't been terribly lucky on maps, but I will eventually be jumping up to higher maps and seeing how I can survive there. Currently top 10 Assassin, that was always the goal, and hopefully I can manage to maintain that goal of top 10 and hit a demigods. Chances are I'll die at some point, because I do like to do risky shit, and I do enjoy a bit of a faster playstyle, or at least as fast as I can possibly manage with this sort of skill. So I want to show you what the current gear setup has, just because it may have changed a little bit since the last video, and I've got a few pieces of gear that I got lucky with. So there it is, first and foremost, the Assassin ladder. It's nothing too serious. getting about 91 gets you into pretty much the top 10 at the moment, and there I am down here playing Frostbolt, but it's supposed to be Ice Nova. It's just picking Frostbolt because I don't know why. And everyone else, Winter Orbs and Privates, and Assassin Winter Orb is probably a pretty decent build, and something, or probably one of the best things you can do for an Assassin at the moment, but so much more fun to do Ice Nova, and that's what our current character is still, using the 5 link that I believe I showcased last time. Haven't managed to upgrade that, and I'm trying so hard to get a Carcass Jack, because the increased area from the Carcass Jack just makes the skill so much nicer offensively and defensively. It covers so much more area, and then gets you just a lot safer, because you throw out your Frostbolts and then you'll be able to hold down your Ice Nova for so much longer, being able to kill everything like forward, backward, everywhere. So it's pretty worth, I think, getting a Carcass Jack in this build. And the other major change that I've done since the last video was put in Intensify. So I did end up dropping the crit strike support, and now I'm using Intensify. So what Intensify does to begin with is it gives you a bunch of area. So you can see my very first attack, pretty big on area. As you attack more and more, so if you keep attacking, you can see that the area goes down quite substantially, and you get 4 stacks of intensity. If you move or use a movement skill, for example, using movement skill, you lose 1 intensity stack. If you move, you'll be losing intensity stacks. So the idea is, as you stand still and cast, you are rewarded with more area damage and then less area of effect. So if you stand still and get your casts in, it does a lot more damage, up to 60%, but it gets a lot more intense in its radius. Now that is both good and bad for the actual clear of the skill. A lot of the time you will get some big intense or some big area Ice Novas going off, and a lot of the time it's going to intensify and then just do a lot more damage in a more localized area. And for the most part, I've got it used to the playstyle. It doesn't really hinder me at all. I think it's fine to use, but I would love the area of a Carcass Jack or a 6th link area support, and then swap in something else instead of area when you're getting down to business with some bossing action. So Intensify, I think pretty worth using in this build. I have played around with Unleash. I don't think it's really too worth it on Ice Nova, but play around with it yourself. And I don't think Unleash on Frostbolt, as many people have said, is really worth doing, I don't think. So currently, still Frostbolt, GMP, Faster Cast, and Arcane Surge. Arcane Surge may be a decent 6th link for your Ice Nova as well, so keep in mind increased area isn't necessarily a 6th link. You could use something like Arcane Surge and then get rid of Arcane Surge in that setup, and it should work out pretty well as well. The other major change I made is I swapped Onslaught on my Stormbrand for Icebite. So I do still put out Stormbrands just about before every pack or after I shoot. So you can go shoot, start doing that, then throw out your Stormbrands. But the difference here is that it now hits a little harder itself, and then also generates me Frenzy Charges. I then have an Onslaught Flask down here. So I still have permanent Onslaught, but I now have Frenzy Charges, which is a good like 20% more damage overall, and pretty worth doing. Otherwise, we'd still love to get a Warlord's Mark ring, but don't have any Elder rings. And besides that, the gear that I have found has been pretty kind to me. This is a nice Temple wand that I had drop off the boss of the Temple of Atzoatl. It didn't have mana regen. I exalted that on, and that's pretty good roll, I guess. And then got some cast speed crafted there as well. Found another wand that has pretty much similar stats, just a little bit worse. Managed to find a helm that just has a locked-in sort of hybrid life, a bit of a chaos resist roll, and then just got a life roll onto it, crafted some shit. Found an amulet that has some cast speed, some spell damage. Unfortunately, it's a crit chance roll instead of a crit multi, but it's still good enough to be an upgrade from my previous stuff. Some pretty basic rings, just life resists, and life resists on boots. And then found a pretty nice pair of gloves that's got life, bunch of resists, and a spare slot to craft life onto, and then a belt that has life, resists, and reduced flask charges used. So it's the best you can do, or that I can do, on like a solo self-found sort of budget. And there's lots of damage missing here or there, but it's definitely good enough to be clearing most of the game, quite possibly even end game. And somehow I've managed to almost cap my chaos resist even, whereas usually, as you know, I'm running around with minus 60 chaos res, some shit like that. So it's a much more hardcore built character, which is something you'd never see from me because I don't need to build hardcore characters. So why bother going through all those defenses and making sure I absolutely never die when I absolutely can die? So the difference is, you come to hardcore, you come with a hardcore mentality and playstyle and build. So most of my builds, most of my characters, I'd wager could easily do hardcore. You just have to adjust a few things and play a little bit differently. So I don't know, I don't really know what else to say there. I know a lot of haters are like, softcore builds, lol, 4K life, whatever. You build for the situation you're going to put yourself through. If I'm going to try and take this character deathless through Uber Elder and I feel like I need a bit more certain things here or there, I will adjust and build for that. So that's basically all I need to say about that. The only other thing I'd say is that I have also spec'd a little bit over here into life and picked up a jewel socket because I actually found a pretty good jewel for my build. Otherwise, my build is going to go completely jewelless, and that's fine too. It works pretty well as well. So I didn't have this jewel socket, I didn't have this last time either, and I've got a lot of people asking me, is the occultist version or the assassin version better? It's hard to say. Each one of these caster sort of ascendancies give a different thing altogether. One is much more offensive, one's more defensive, one's a good hybrid. Assassin is pretty much offensive. You just got a bunch of damage, crit, bit of movement speed, so a bit of clear. Whereas occultist will have some good area as well as a bit of defense and similar sorts of damage. I don't know. I'd say occultist was probably the stronger choice, but there's plenty to be said for assassin as well. So far so good, still alive. I'll hopefully have a bit more of an end game video for the next one if I'm still alive once again, but who knows, maybe I'll be dead, maybe starting another character. So this was a bit of a wrap up on exclamation reminder, the level 91 Ice Nova Assassin. Still going to try and push top 10. We'll see how we go. Thanks for watching and see you next time.